Are you having trouble tracking down your female ancestors? Are they hiding in that family tree, but you just can't quite find them? Well, if so, you're in the right place today because I've got the video for you. We are going to be talking about finding those female ancestors hiding in your family tree. Hi, I'm Lisa Lisson with Are You My Cousin, where I try to take the overwhelm out of your genealogy research. Now, before we get started looking for those female ancestors in your family tree, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button down in the bottom right-hand corner so that you don't miss any of the new videos that I post here at the Are You My Cousin YouTube channel. Okay, let's get started finding those female ancestors. The first thing that I want you to do is to really go back to the beginning of your research. Now, if you have been researching your ancestors for quite a long time, maybe it's been years that you've been looking for a particular female line or female ancestor, go back to the beginning of your research and reanalyze it. Go back, look at it with fresh eyes, because one, you are a different researcher. If you have been researching for years on this one line, you have a lot of years of research under your belt. So you have a different perspective when you go back and look at those records. So you may see things you didn't recognize before simply because you have a better understanding of genealogy research and how to do it. Second, you want to go back and really analyze those records, those early records you looked at, because you're looking for the people that are named in those records. Because when you think about it, if you're looking at that ancestor and you've learned a lot about her community over the years of research that you've been working on something, you've started to understand what that community looked like, who was important to your family and to all the ancestors in that area. So you're going to have a better understanding of relationships and how they might help you have clues or give you clues to further research that female ancestor. So go back to the beginning. That's my number one tip. Number two, do not overlook the obvious in your research. Never assume a record doesn't have information on your female ancestor simply because it usually doesn't. So for instance, a deed is not a record you would typically think to look for to find an ancestor's maiden name. So if you're researching your female ancestor and you find her husband has land and you pull that deed, there is a possibility it will name her maiden name if she is named in there as well. So it may or may not, the husband's deed may or may not name your female ancestor, but if it does, number one, you get a first name, and number two, I have seen it on more than one occasion where they will indicate what her birth name was. So don't overlook looking in those records just because they don't usually have maiden name information. Go for it, look at it and see what's there. Number three, I want you to shift your focus. In other words, I don't want you to research the female ancestor at all. I want you to research the men who were important in her life. Because face it, when we are researching 1700s, 1800s, those early ancestors, they didn't necessarily create a lot of records on their own. We know that. But their husbands and the men did, and they are absolutely named in those records. So you want to research the husband very well, make it a very thorough research. It could be her father, it could be a grandfather, it could be a brother, it could be a son. But if there was a male figure who was important in her life, you want to research him thoroughly and look for her in his records. Lastly, number four, you want to research that female ancestor and her role in the community where she lived. Was she active in the church? Was she active in a local women's group? How was she known? What did she participate in? Because absolutely, our female ancestors, we know they were living in that same community as their male counterparts. And they were living lives and they were touching lives and they were actually leaving traces of themselves really in a less obvious way. So it could be they're listed in church records. It could be they're listed in the newspaper because they hosted a women's group for a church luncheon. It could be who was visiting whom. You get information that way from those newspapers. Community cookbooks have information. Any kind of listing might be there. Check the church histories. Any kind of listing will have oftentimes the female's and what their contributions might have been. So check out the women's organizations and check out what was happening in that community as well. All right, there you have it, guys. When it comes for finding your female ancestors, yes, I recognize they're hard. They are not impossible to find. We just have to think a little outside the box. We have to use a little bit different strategy than what we would do for our male ancestors. So what I would have you do is try these 4 tips to start with and see if we can find some extra clues to get you moving your research forward. There you have it, guys. I would love for it if you would hit that subscribe button, as I said earlier, so you can not miss any of the videos that are posted here on the Are You My Cousin YouTube channel. I do put 2 new videos up every single week. And if you will check the description below, I will have a link to the blog post that talks a little bit more about this particular topic of finding those female ancestors. Have a great day, guys. Bye.